So JJ is there, but he's not there.
Let me
Dang.
Chasing
That's
ghosts.
that's messed up. You chasing the JJ ghost.
I'm there, yo. I just.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hip Hop and Homilies podcast, where we seek to explore the deeper meaning behind your favorite artists' dopest tracks. Today's show, we'll be diving into a single from The Truth's latest EP called Chasing Ghosts. Without further ado, let's get it.
It's gonna weigh me down. It's gonna weigh me down.
Yeah, they tried to rush the album, I told them wait for it. It's too complicated, homie, I'm brainstorming. Umbrellas in the air, man, the ink's pouring. A band of gorillas swing through the rainforest. They told me keep posting pics to stay relevant. I guess I'm addressing the pink elephant. White lines, blades on the glass, homie, they chase ghosts. Night vision, I seen it all through them yellow tents. Cross between the millennial and the OG. The hunger's still burning in me, homie, I don't sleep. Lost boys breaking dawn when the sun's low. Somebody's blood was already drawn, I ain't gotta grow teeth. 30's the new 20, that's what they say to me. I'm in my 40s, I'm proud and I'm aging gracefully. Hip-hop, knew for sure was a global phenomenon. What's up, Wolfers was banging while I was touring through ancient Greece. Never tried to be on, it just
First take. What do you think about the track, man?
I think the Truth did his thing on this track, man. The production is nice. I like the vocals. My man's on there sing. The bars are there, but the Truth is always telling a story. It's always real life, and I appreciate that. Giving insight on how he's feeling and being vulnerable. These are the tracks that I like the best because I can relate to them. There are a lot of nuggets of wisdom and within this track, and I really appreciate this one.
It was definitely a banger. I would give it that. I'm a little envious that True can drop some bangers, but I think it kind of wasn't bar heavy.
Yeah,
because it was a banger. But no, he definitely had some illusions and some imagery in that joint though. I like the gladiator reference in the third verse.
Yeah.
He definitely had some imagery. He had the one line about feel like New Year's when I dropped the ball. He had the imagery and stuff. So I like that about it. I think I just was feeling it though, just because of production and quality and stuff like that.
That's why I feel bad for rappers that's chasing after glory, Dad.
I don't want no crown, no. It's gonna weigh me down.
Yeah. See, I grew up on cassette tapes. I guess I'm just as good as everybody except Drake. 10 years under the microscope, they spectate, expectations high. That's how they gauge my success rate. Boy, it's been a shift in the paradigm. Yeah, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a shame how the thought of losing steam in your career can make an artist feel terrified. That's why we need God involved.
So look, in Chasing Ghosts, The Truth has a line where he shares that Derek Minor had referred to him as the Kobe of CHH. Now, what do you guys think about this? Is The Truth? Can we imagine him as the Kobe Bryant of CHH? Rest in peace, Kobe.
So my immediate answer is I don't think so. No, but let me give you some background.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, I didn't grow up with CHH. I was straight up, grew up from a young age, listening to hip hop, whatever was on the radio, listening to gangster rap at home, Big Brother playing Snoop in the background. I'm standing in the corner. All I remember from my childhood was Gospel Gangsters. So that's a rap group.
Yeah.
And then when I start to get into following Christ and, getting into Christian hip hop, I think I heard of The Truth and I heard of Lecrae. But at that time it was, The Truth was the man. So I'm like, if I'm wondering, because Kobe Bryant, if you look at that analogy, Kobe Bryant is a carbon copy of Michael Jordan. So because I didn't know anything before the truth. I'm like, is the truth Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see him as Kobe because Kobe came after somebody great.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I couldn't see that. I would say like somebody like Lecrae or Andy Mineo or Bizzle or something, are a Kobe Bryant. Just to follow along that analogy.
Okay.
But I think you had an interesting analogy of who the truth might be.
Yeah. Well, so and let me set my context too, man. So, for me, as I kind of alluded to in the first take, the truth was really the first Christian hip hop artist that like I really attached myself to. He wasn't the first artist, Christian hip hop artist that I had listened to. That was actually as well Gospel Gangsters. So I listened to Gospel Gangsters as well, and was like,
are they the Celtics? Or prime time or Showtime Lakers?
They have to be up there, bro. And so I listened to them. I really did get in the cross movement though. But once I had made that move to cross movement, one of my homies just gave me truth, bro. And I remember the first track I heard was "I Ain't Got No Horror Story." God saved me in my youth, I give him all the glory. And bro, it did something to me, man. Because again, I grew up in a single parent household, but my mom, she took me to church all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like my testimony was never finna be I was moving units. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't finna be me. It wasn't. I was slaying 20 bays. Nope. I was wiped up. Oh, I thought I was wiped up at the time, and so I was just making sense of my walk at that point. And the truth kind of spoke to that, man. I thought it was so powerful. But I will say this, going back to the question, the truth's flow, Jay-Z was huge at that time. Jay-Z was the guy in hip hop. It could be debated that Nas was, but we all know who won that debate. And so Jay-Z was the guy, and the truth had Jay-Z type flow. Nobody can argue that. You say the truth had his own flow. He had a Jay-Z type flow, bottom line. And so because he had that flow, he got tons of crossover attention. He was the one cat that I let all my unsaved homies listen to. And they'd be like, bro, who is this? Is it Jay-Z? You know what I mean? And he would do that. And so I think he's the first Christian hip hop artist that really had crazy crossover appeal. Cross movement had some of that, but the truth took it to the next level. I think it's for that reason, even though he didn't have the same kind of successes that we're seeing with Lecrae, I think you can probably label him the invisible GOAT. So in basketball, Michael Jordan is the GOAT, right? But there are people whose accomplishments far exceeded his. That when you look at stats, pound for pound, even post-career stuff, you just really can't get with him. Prime example is the Bill Russell. Right? We're not talking 2 championships. We're not talking 3. We're not talking.
By the way,
4.
that's my GOAT.
We're not talking 5. We're not talking 6. We're not talking 7. We're not talking 8. We're not talking 9. Come on, bro. Bill Russell got championships for every finger. Who has that? Right? Like that's just not. I mean, one of the first black coach, the first black Celtics coach. Come on, bro. You just don't. You don't get that kind of success. So I think for that reason, the truth can be labeled in the ilk of one of the invisible GOATs, because I think it's to this point that Lecrae has really overshadowed a lot of the accomplishments that the truth has made.
However, I totally agree with that.
However, those accomplishments that Lecrae has made are only as possible with some of the groundbreaking that the truth did. Because I think it was what the truth
100% agree with that too.
At the time he was doing it was probably much harder than what Lecrae is doing now, even though Lecrae has been much more successful at it. That's my take. What up, Zil?
No, I feel like I got to give my context too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I grew up kind of forced to listen to Christian hip hop because my parents thought that was the only way to keep me engaged in Christian culture. I was more of a I had a following for the Grits. I don't know if y'all remember Grits.
My Life Be Light.
Ooh, yeah, them boys.
Yeah, classic.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tried to categorize. I feel like a lot of the church tried to categorize Canton Jones as a Christian rapper, and this is no disrespect to Canton Jones, but
no, he got to get his props, bro. They tried to cancel him back in the day, bro.
Yeah, but he, I mean, I didn't see him as a rapper. Like, what he was doing wasn't rap. I mean, it was definitely engaging because he wasn't Kurt Franklin when it came to
club.
Yeah, cold.
I mean, he wasn't Kurt Franklin with the youth engagement, but he started his own following. That was
bro. He probably the Allen Iverson of Christian hip hop.
That or the I mean, I wouldn't even go that far, but I mean, like he definitely
is he Robert Horry?
No, he deserved those championships, bro.
I was gonna say more like the Jason Kidd, you know, or the Dirk Nowitzki. You know, we'll give him a ship or two.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, but no. Anyway, but going back to this, but no, I think it was dope that Marcel brought up like some of the other artists because I feel like we don't appreciate them. Like I think he said Bizzle and Eminion and stuff like that. But I mean, for me, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I had to hit up Pro. I hit up my boy Pro. Y'all call him Derek Minor. And he told me like, yeah, I said that, but I ain't mean it like that, bro. And I was like, man, so what did you mean, bro, when you said that? And, you know, this is no disrespect to True. But, you know, he was like, yeah, man, when I said that, what I meant was I looked up to him as like the Kobe of Christian hip hop.
I need receipts.
Bruh, I see the DMs later. But anyway, he was saying, you know, but you know, man, I could appreciate. For me, yes, I think that the Truth, as far as he had that crossover power, like Chris was saying earlier. I think that for me, like the one who got me like really hooked on Christian hip hop was the Truth and Flame. You know, the cross movement.
Oh man, thank you for mentioning him.
Yeah,
thank you for mentioning him.
So you know, like, so I do agree with you guys where I could see him like being, you know, like if we really categorize it, I think we're just all really being technical.
Yeah.
With this all with all of this, because I could be like, well, yeah, you know, what I was going to say, what I was prepared to say was, you know, he was more like the Magic Johnson of Christian hip hop.
Great call too. I mean, great call.
But you know, like, you know, the before Kobe, because I still think McCray is before Kobe, before Jordan, I think McCray is the Jordan. You know, so like I'm like that pre-Jordan era, you know, but post, you know, the super teams of the you know, the 70s and, you know, the 60s and 70s.
Oh yeah.
You know, so like I was like, yeah, I could see him as a Magic, but I think that's just all technicalities at this point. I think that, you know, like at this point, like when I'm thinking about, you know, what this episode is about and stuff like that, like he deserves his due. Like the dude is, he was a pioneer of what Christian hip hop is today.
Yes, sir.
He was definitely a trailblazer in that regard. I like the kind of the relationship that was brought up about the connection, the correlation between Jay-Z and the Truth. I thought that was interesting as well, because I definitely see that too. It was just something about Truth that I was like, yeah, y'all should listen to him. And, you know, I couldn't say the same. I couldn't say the same thing about, like, with Grits. I couldn't say the same thing with Grits or, you know, with Gospel Gangsters or, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, so, like, it was definitely, So I appreciated that, and I think that he deserves his due for that. And I think that that's kind of the suggestion that Derek Minor was kind of coming to, like, you know, and so because of that, I would agree with that. Like, I looked at him too, kind of like, I appreciated that dude, kind of like the Kobe. Like he was the Kobe of Christian hip hop. Rest in peace to Kobe.
Not having that pressure on me, man, free me up. Cause I can get a million
2026.
likes, but it's never gonna be enough. Yeah, they just did a standing ovation for me. But these days, I just wanna talk the creation story. What's the difference between Gilgamesh and the real flood? People have such a hard time dealing with faded glory, dad.
I don't want no crown, no. It's gonna weigh me down.
Strong foundation, I can't deviate. Derek Minor told me I'm the Kobe of CHH. But if I'm watching everybody else, God could be doing great things with me that I won't appreciate. Boy, you run out of breath when you chase things. That's why I'm keeping the main thing the main thing. Cause if the focus ain't up and Jesus ain't first, you will go into a depression when the fame leaves. Boy, are you not
All right, fellas, so up
entertained
until
now?
this point, man, we have really been deep in the niche podcast kind of territory. We're exploring CHH and ranking the greats and doing a comparison to basketball greats. So I think our listeners are down to 5 people now. But that's okay. That's okay. We're doing it for the community, man, because somebody's like wishing they could wade into this. And so we want to tell you to go ahead, share your comments on our streaming platforms, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. We'll try to hit you with those handles at the end of the show. But let's move into this next prompt. So, one of the recurring themes in hip hop and in CHH is the theme of pursuing greatness. In the early 2000s, it was a trend for rappers to state that they were the best rapper alive. I'm the best rapper alive. And a plethora of CHH artists have continued in that work. Artists from Andy Mineo to Sho Baraka have all made bangers centering that theme. That said, how should Christians interact with notoriety, glory, and clout? How do you stay away from glory chasing? Do you stay away from glory chasing? So big question marks for.
So yeah, man. It's really interesting, especially being like a hip hop artist who's Christian, or being whatever you want to say, like you're a Christian hip hop artist. I know that's a whole nother conversation and different arguments with that. But by the nature, at least my experience with hip hop is it's always been like a competitive sport. You're always trying to prove your skill level in respect to your peers, so you can get that attention, so you can get that glory. And then actually, as hip hop has become commercialized, you can get monetization. But then that's a whole nother conversation, because the most skilled people aren't the people that we know about, or who are maybe getting the most pay or whatever. So I mean,
Nas versus Jay-Z.
Yeah, so it's a business part in there when you're talking about commercialization, and then talking about, okay, who's the best rapper alive, who's the most successful rapper alive, all of those different things. So I mean, throughout my experience with hip hop, all the way back to, I think my earliest I can remember of a rapper kind of asserting their dominance is like, I'm thinking of LL Cool J, like things that I grew up listening to, like, him asserting his dominance. It's like a part of hip hop. And then, you inject Christianity in there, then it's like, okay, we are called to be humble. We are called to, not chase our glory or bring attention to ourselves, but to, bring attention to God, which, it can be very gray, murky area, because it's like, some cats may use that as an excuse not to be good at their craft.
Come on.
And then some cats really wrestle with, okay, I want to be really good at my craft, but is this trying to draw attention to me? And then some cats are like, yes, I'm gonna be great at my craft. I'm gonna be great at my craft, draw attention to me, so I can then point you towards, you know, God. But you know, and then I'm sure there's more conversation about that. But I think I guess that's my first stab at it.
Wow, amen, bro. Is it what you got up here, man? You got to follow after the pastor, bro. You got to follow after the pastor.
Yeah, that was real. For me, man, I think that, man, wow.
Yeah.
Sell dropped some nuggets, man. He dropped some nuggets. I think for me personally, I can speak for Zill.
Come on.
Zill is
rap name.
Yeah, that's not even. Yeah, I'm going off the names y'all giving me. That's my nickname for this podcast. But no, JJ, Johnny Jones, Johnny Raymond, JJ loves to teach Zill the Magic Dragon. You know, whatever. It's
spit hot fire.
I think that for me as an artist, I'm definitely pushing to be great. I'm definitely pushing. You know, I think that for me, like, my name has to be eventually it has to be mentioned with the if we're talking hip hop, you know, I want to be mentioned with the Lil Waynes and the Lecrae's. I want to be mentioned in poetry. I want to be mentioned with the Kendall Somethings, the Rudy Francisco's, the Lady Bryant's. You know, I want to be mentioned with those same people, with the Jasmine Mans. You know, I want to be in that same breath. Not because of like my own glory, but because it's a rubric for me. It's a measuring stick. You know, like, and like I said, I'm speaking for myself personally. I think that as artists, like, it takes away from our art to, you know, kind of like overthink or be super conscious of, are we taking the glory away from God by you know, by doing this song, if it's too much of a banger, or if I focus too much on being called the Kobe of hip hop, of Christian hip hop and stuff like that. And I get what Truth was saying in his art, but you know, do I feel like it does lead to depression? You know, if you not getting those followers, yeah, of course. You know, especially when that's the hype that you've had leading up to that. But I mean, that's just how the game goes, you know, in a sense. And so I think that, you know, like everything that Marcel mentioned just recently, I mean, like that he mentioned about like the thought process that's going through a lot of these artists' heads and how that shapes the way they create. It's definitely an issue because for me, I'm like, again, I don't see it as glory chasing. If you trying to make a quality song, I don't see it as glory chasing if your song is, I won't say like not necessarily doesn't mention God 80 times. You know what I'm saying? Because School of Roses was by Christian Grey was a Christian album. But you know, he didn't mention God a billion times on that album. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. But you know, I think a lot of those people know what their roles are, as far as creating as well. Like, I think that Christian hip hop is evolving too, and I think that we need to make sure that we stay aware of that too, because in 06, 07, 08, you know, the cross movement, the reach, like those two labels and platforms, when they came to the forefront, it was all about the verses had to be very wrapped up in theology. If they weren't, then churches wasn't playing them for their kids. And how it's definitely moved away from that. You know, I say more, I call it the Andy Mineo era. Because I feel like once Heroes for Sale came out, it was like it was around that time. Yeah, it was like the Christian hip hop music went from theology heavy to we can spit bars and we can have fun with this music thing, and you know, and still give God glory. And now a lot of those artists are on the commercial platform, on the secular platform. And it's still doing, it's still being labeled as Christian artists. So I think that that's not a tribute to glory chasing, but a tribute to how Christian hip hop is evolving as a genre, as well as kind of trying to stay away from those thoughts of, is this song giving God glory if we don't say God 20 times, or if we don't do this, or if we don't do that? And so, yeah. I apologize. I feel like I was long-winded with that answer, but
that's good, man. That's good. That's good, man. I think one of the things, and maybe I'll add to that, is it's really important for us to be clear about what we mean by success. When we think about our faith as Christians, we have to orient our faith around Jesus, and thus we orient success around Jesus and what his calling on our life is. And I say that to start because I do think, I agree with the truth about the dangers of chasing glory, in as much as that glory isn't kind of founded in Jesus. And to kind of get more nuance about that, like, we have a culture, man, that is, I think the academic term is neoliberalism, but like it's like economics is everything. You know what I mean? Like every podcast that we make, there's always this economic like caveat to it. You think about LeBron James working out every day, on the, putting on his Instagram, and you're like, man, that's inspiring me, man. I want to be the best I can be. And then you start to ask yourself, why is LeBron James like working out like that? Is he working out just because he's that, he's hell bent on his health? If so, that's really dope. And I think that's what I want to aspire to. But when you think about it, like LeBron James is a brand, like he's a commodity, in this environment. And so he's chiseling his body like that because his body is his source of income. His source of income is basketball. And that's potentially why he's doing that. And so in the same way, when you think about yourself, it's like, how am I going to make that same kind of money? I got to go hard at blah, blah, blah. I got to go hard at that. And then that stream of logic follows you over to whatever your Christian endeavor is too. I got to go hard so I can get this money, and I feel like that is one of the problematic thing right there. It's like, are we clout chasing to get more compensation from our economic system, and that's not I don't think that's a critique on like,
absolutely
making income.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm that's not a critique on like making income. Like make your income.
I'm trying to make a living off of my art. Most definitely.
Absolutely. But I think on the flip side of that is that if your life is lived as a way to gain income, solely driven for that, furthermore, like if you are turning yourself into a commodity, by definition, you're dehumanizing yourself. You know what I mean? Like we got liberation so that we can be humans, as black. This is black people type stuff. Like we are no longer chattel. You know what I mean? We are not commodities. We are people. You know what I mean? And that's one of the problematic things about this conversation about brand. I am a brand. It's like, I'm not a commodity, bro. I'm more than a commodity. Like I'm a person with the ability to make money, to add value to the world, and maybe that's a rabbit hole that I'm probably not prepared to go down. But I think on face value, I think one of the things that is really heavy in my heart right now is just the importance of, what is Jesus calling you to do? If it is to be a basketball player, then definitely do that with excellence and greatness, and in so satisfy your calling. If it is to be a artist, then do so and satisfy your calling. If it's to be a teacher, then do so. Satisfy your calling. But just because you got called to be a teacher, don't mean you got called to be a principal. I'm trying to navigate this. Definitely, and if you got called to be a principal, don't mean you got called to be a superintendent, because the market mechanism will tell you that you should be continuing to climb the strata. It will tell you as an artist that it's not enough for you to be an artist, but you have to be a record label exec. Ultimately, that's what you need to do, because that's how you will maximize your earnings. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really I think that's an interesting way to test it. If you feel called to do this, are you doing it, A, or are you just in that field trying to get to the other level so that you can make more income? I don't know. I guess it's just really tricky. And maybe that's the problem. There's a lot of gray area in this, between, recognizing what you've been called to versus, are you just being kind of propelled through as a means to get more income, because you can get income and that's not a problem. But yeah, I guess I don't have a really great answer for this, man. But I think that it's tricky, though. I think it's tricky somewhat. But I think what's not tricky, what is true, is do what you're called to do. And that evolves as well. One season you may be called to be a teacher. The other season you may be called to be a principal. I'm hoping that that's my season. But I think it's just tricky, man. And I think we got to be very, very, very maybe suspicious of the inclination to see our calling as primary source of income, or as to see our calling as vocation, because the two aren't the same. They're not mutually exclusive, but they're not necessarily the same. In your job, you may be doing your calling, but your job itself may not necessarily be your calling. So yeah, it's just a complicated thing, man. But I think it all stems down to, when we talked about, as far as chasing greatness, in that we just need to be very attuned to what we're defining greatness and success by.
This is not a game now. Wale said if I don't get the fame that I'm looking for, I'm gonna pull the trigger and blow my brains out. Celebrity life is so glorified. Pictures with entertainers, high profile. But if all of that really meant anything, then tell me why Robin Williams would hang himself from a doorknob. Boy, for reality show offers, I turned them down. Calls to do major collabs, I turned them down. Not that I never do it, just don't wanna blur the lines. Nobody chasing ghosts, homie, I'm on the job. Yeah, I'm on the job. Nobody chasing crowns, boy, I'm on the job.
Hey man, so we've been saying the quote of the day, man. I wanna flip it, man. Just in honor of the name of our pod, we'll just call this segment the homily. So go ahead and hit us with that homily, bro.
All right, so this is actually Revelation 4:9-11, and it's and whenever the living creatures give glory, honor, and thanks to the one seated on the throne who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before the one seated on the throne, and they worship him who lives forever. They cast their crowns before the throne, saying, "You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things. By your will they exist and came to be."
Wow, that's good. That's good. I think a thought that comes to my mind as you read that is that, we can't be afraid to do things that we enjoy and to do them at a high level, because, it's God has created them. At the same time, it's so important for us just to, give God praise and reverence for those things. If you are a ball player, do it with excellence, love and enjoy it. Like Zeal said, don't be afraid that, I'm making this all about me, just love it and give God the praise.
Laying your crown down implies that you have a crown, that God is giving you a crown, that God is giving you position, something worthy of laying down.
Come on.
Like, not that you are aspiring for mediocrity, but you do have a greatness about you. That's even more powerful. When you have that greatness piece, you have something to lay down before God.
You know what I also wanted to mention too?
Wow.
That's good. That's dope.
That's good.
What I kind of also wanted to mention too is that biblically, I feel like they wasn't chasing glory, but glory was just given to these people. Like, I think about David and Saul, right? You know, and the songs that was created about them. You know, where they say, like, you know, Saul killed slaying his thousands, and David slaying his tens of thousands. You know, and that was what I was really thinking about as I kind of like meditated on these questions, and I was like, you know, but were they seeking glory? And people would argue that Saul was, and you know, I would like to think that he wasn't, but you know, that kind of came with, you know, once he was there, you know, when he was on top, when he was, you know, when he was the Kobe Bryant of Christian hip hop, you know, that when he was there, like, it's like, okay, I'm at the top, bro. Like, I don't want to lose this position. You know what I'm saying? So I got to keep doing stuff to stay there. And, you know, and you know, and maybe he wasn't necessarily pursuing glory, but I think that, that kind of got to his head. And, you know, that led to the downfall of Saul, you know, after that. You know,
good. That's good.
I think I was just like, that was something biblically that stuck out as I was meditating.
That's good. Yeah. Don't chase greatness. You already are. All right, fellas. That's the show.
This pod is brought to you by the Refuge Creative Collective.
And this is the Hip Hop and Homilies pod.
Yes, this episode was sponsored by 517 Barbecue in Lansing, Michigan. We cater weddings, backyard barbecues, office parties, and the list goes on. We'll help guide you through the menu to make your next event right. You ready to eat? Check out the website at www.517barbecue.com. This podcast is also sponsored by 1640 Creations, the sum of our collective creative community. Purchase your official Refuge Creative Collective apparel at 1640creations.com. And don't forget, rate us on iTunes and follow us on Facebook at Refuge Creative Collective. We'll see you next time. Peace.
It's gonna weigh me down. Yeah.